So, for our final speaker, last but certainly not least, we have the wonderful Hannah, who's going to come and share her own personal experience of encephalitis. Yeah, don't need to hear any more from me. Over to you.
Thank you. Hello everyone, I'm also a bit croaky, so you have to excuse me today. So hello, I'm Hannah. This is my story with encephalitis. So life hadn't always been easy, but I was a happy, carefree 17-year-old. I'd done a year of A-levels. I was a straight A-star student, apart from French, but we don't talk about that from GCSEs. My life was ahead of me. I could have done anything that I really wanted to do. Apart from the odd cough and cold, I was rarely ill. I'd done a year at sixth form, loved it, and life couldn't really have been any better. At the end of that first year of A-levels, I went on an English trip. We were living in Norwich at the time, and we went to Stratford-upon-Avon to see some theatre shows that we were studying in English. I was tired, just end of term kind of tired, but apart from that, nothing out of the ordinary. We were camping by the river, going to see a few plays. It should have been a perfect weekend away, and it was until the second day. I remember just on that second day just feeling a bit weird. There's no other way to describe it. It felt like everything was kind of happening and I was taking part, and I went on boat trips and we went to the theatre and I did all sorts of things, but I didn't really feel like I was there. It just felt like it was part of a movie and everything was sort of happening around me. We went to the theatre in the evening, don't really remember any of that. And I remember going back to the campsite, beginning to get a bit of a headache and just wanting to go to sleep. We were in the tent. Thankfully, some of the tent that I was in, someone had brought a chocolate cake. So we were the social hub of the whole of our little campsite, which actually turned out to be probably a lifesaver for me. So they were all eating chocolate cake. I had gone to bed not feeling so well, increasingly feeling weird, and started hallucinating about frogs. Apparently there were frogs everywhere. Don't know why I don't have a thing about frogs, but there were frogs just everywhere. My teachers, my friends got increasingly worried, and I was rushed to Warwick Hospital. As the night went on, my teachers were told to ring my parents and get them to come over from Norwich straight away because they were so concerned. I think they lived I think it was about a 3-4 hour drive, so I can't begin to imagine how scary it must have been for them to have had to drive across not knowing if I was going to be alive when they got there. My condition worsened and I was diagnosed with viral encephalitis. I was mostly unconscious, hallucinating. Every time I woke up, I was generally sleeping, but if I was to wake at any point, I would hallucinate about anything. I would see things, and there's pictures on the wall, and they had to cover them all up with sheets and things because I was just hallucinating about anything that I saw. And I was having seizures. My parents were told to fear the worst. I wasn't expected to make it. And if I did, then I was to probably have the development age of a young child forevermore. Sorry. I became too ill for Warwick Hospital. They decided that they couldn't quite manage me, and so I was transferred to Coventry Hospital. Due to the swelling in my brain at this point, I was intubated and then spent 10 days in intensive care. When I came off the machines and all the breathing apparatus and was able to start breathing again on my own, no one was too sure how I would be and what the damage would have been. As I woke up, I had some awareness of everything that was going on around, but I was completely paralysed from kind of my neck down. I wasn't able to move my body at all. I was tube fed, had a catheter, had a picker line, I think it's called. I was really sleepy, had some problems with my short-term memory, would forget things. However, I was alive. After a couple of months on a neurological ward in Coventry, I was transferred back to the Norfolk and Norwich Hospital, which was closer to home, which was probably great for my parents because it meant that they no longer had to stay in a nurse's accommodation at the end of Coventry Hospital. And then after some time in the NNN, I was then transferred to a rehab hospital to carry that on. I had to learn how to do everything again, how to walk. Thankfully, movement began to come back very slowly over time. I began to be able to move my arms and then my body and then finally my legs. I had physio, speech and language therapy, occupational therapy, all the usual stuff. That photo is me, the first time that I was ever able to stand unaided after being paralysed for a bit. 5 months after becoming ill, I was allowed home a week before Christmas, the longest 5 months of my whole entire life. And as a 17-year-old, and I actually had my 18th birthday when I was in hospital, that was a massive thing. All my friends went off to university during that time. All my friends carried on their lives and I was there, just having been in hospital for all that time. It took a long time to feel like myself again. Encephalitis affected my life in many ways. I was left with short-term memory problems, word-finding problems, brain fog, tiredness. I could lose balance when I walked. I used to call it my little drunk walk. I'd always go to the left. Lights and sounds were overwhelming at times. But I began to get my life back and I was determined to be a normal teenager. So I came out of Christmas at hospital at Christmas, and the following September I went back to college, determined to do it. However, I found it really hard, and I went from being a straight A student to basically failing that first year of college because I had to restart. And that's a massive thing to get your head around when you've been things that you could do once before and you can no longer do them whatsoever. However, during that second year at college, I became ill again and was rushed back to hospital. Again, with many of the same symptoms as before, so some seizures and hallucinations and unable to move my body properly. Felt like my brain was going to explode. Everything was coming back. That was the start of my journey of going back and forth into hospital for many times, sometimes for a week, sometimes for 4 months, kind of back and forth, spending many, many times in hospital. They were never too sure at that time quite what was going on. At one point they said it was a migraine. At other points they said, oh, you must be on drugs, you must have taken something. Other times it was, oh, you've obviously just a bit stressed and you're not coping very well. Finally, when I was in Sheffield for university, generally each time I went in, they said it was viral meningitis because they would do the lumbar puncture and that would have white blood cells in it, and they would do scans and my brain would all be inflamed each time. So they would keep saying, oh, it's just viral meningitis, it's just meningitis, it's meningitis each time. Eventually, I got a new consultant after one visit to hospital who went a bit House, if you've ever seen House, and was like, right, we're going to get to the bottom of it, let's find out what's happened. And at that point, after many, many tests and him going through all my notes, somehow he managed to get them right from when I was 17, he diagnosed me with autoimmune encephalitis. So I first became ill in 2000. In 2000, autoimmune encephalitis wasn't a thing. It hadn't been discovered at that point. So all the times then that I'd gone in, I think it was about 12, 13, 14, 15 years of going in and out of hospital. It was only towards the end that autoimmune encephalitis had actually been discovered. What they don't know now is whether I always had viral encephalitis and that triggered an autoimmune response, or whether I had autoimmune encephalitis in the beginning, but it wasn't a thing for them to discover. So that's something that we'll never know. But either way, it was nice to finally get some answers as to what was happening. And I think that they believe that if they knew then what they know now, and I'd have had treatment that you can have these days, then actually I probably wouldn't have ended up going back and forth into hospital quite so much. So since that new discovery, I was taken into hospital, had a strong course of steroids, and then was placed on immune suppressant drugs. I see the recovery as being in two parts, the physical versus emotional. I think the physical part was, in one sense, the easy part. Medical interventions, determination, hard work, physio, OT, speech and language, all helped me to get to the place where I am now. I think the hard bit is the emotional and psychological part. I was very lucky, still am, and had the most amazing friends and family, some of whom came to visit me every single day of those 5 months when I was first in hospital, and subsequent times. They kept me going and definitely helped me to get to the place that I am today, and I will be eternally grateful for their friendship and support. I'm naturally a cheerful, happy, positive person. That's how I generally try and approach things in life. And that's kind of alongside all my friends and family wanting to keep me happy and keep me buoyant, of all those sort of things that are said, you know, keep going, you'll be fine, you'll be strong, you'll get there. That really helped me to get to the place that I am today. However, under the smiles, under the determination, actually, I had flashbacks of the time that I was in hospital, and actually underneath it all, I was a 17-year-old, and then whatever age I was after that, who'd been traumatised by everything that had happened, because it's a scary place being in hospitals, all the machines, and I would have flashbacks. I rarely talked about my illness. Today's a really big deal. I would never ever say anything to anyone, especially new people who met me. I'd say, oh, I might just kind of say, oh, I was a little bit ill when I was younger, but I'm fine now, because I just didn't want to talk about it, and I just couldn't ever talk about it. Put my head down, get on with life. But underneath that, all the while, I just wanted my old brain back. To me, there was two very different, definite sides, and there was the pre-encephalitis and there was the post-encephalitis. And for a very, very long time, I just wanted to be the old me. I wanted my old brain back. I wanted to be the person who could do anything. You know, I did get A's and A stars. I didn't particularly work hard for them. You know, I was lucky. I had all of that. I wanted that brain back, and I couldn't do it. So it took many years of counselling to realise that I was okay, that I was different, but I was okay. You know, I was never going to have the brain that I used to have, but actually, that's all right. I'm okay with how I am. So how am I now? What's life like after encephalitis? So I can get tired more easily, but actually I've learned to know my body so well that it rarely knocks me out these days, because I can probably, better than so many people in my kind of day-to-day life, but I know the tiny little symptoms that say you need to sit down for a bit, or you need to just go out and stare at the trees or whatever for a bit just to recover. I can forget things, and I would say that I have a really rubbish memory. However, friends and family would say that I've got a most amazing memory, because I've learned so many strategies to help over the years to help me cope on a day-to-day basis. I can often say the wrong word, which generally just cues hilarious discussions with my husband. When he says, oh, where's my drink? And I'm like, oh, it's in the oven. And he kind of looks shocked at me, and like, I don't mean the oven, I mean it's in the fridge. You know, or completely making up words that I think are real. And it's only when I say it out loud that I realise that I've completely said the wrong word or completely made up a word. Once I began to come to terms with my new brain and accept the new me, then things began to fall into place. I got a new job as kind of a sidestep in a career, because actually when you come close to losing your life, it makes you really value your life. You know, and I didn't want to do that. I was an assistant head in a school. I didn't want to go into school for 7:30 in the morning and leave at 7 o'clock at night and work for a few hours in the evening. Actually, there was more to life than just working. I did things that I love just for the hell of it, just because I really wanted to do it and I loved it. And I met my wonderful husband and got married. I want to finish with a bit of a cheesy song. I won't sing it for you, you'll be all right. So Annie, the film of Annie was the film of my childhood. I used to watch it every single day. I could probably still recite it word for word from the beginning to end, because I used to love it so much. And if you know that film, and if you don't, there's a song in it that says, the sun will come out tomorrow. When I'm stuck with a day that's grey and lonely, I just stick out my chin and grin and say, oh, the sun will come out tomorrow. That song kept me going many, many times when I was in hospital. And I think it's a song that's often misinterpreted. I think sometimes people see it as everything's wonderful, everything's sunny, we need to smile and just get on with life and it's great. But actually it doesn't say that at all. It says, actually, there are days that are really grey and lonely. You know, there's some days that are just really rubbish. However, they're not going to stay like that forever. And one day, the tomorrow, things are going to look different and things are going to be better. That tomorrow might be literally tomorrow, it might be a week. For me, I would say it probably took about 15 years to actually get to the point where I've accepted the new me and accepted my brain and work out what I can do. You know, tomorrow may be a while in the future, but actually one day things will look slightly different. Might be different. I haven't got the brain I used to have. I have a different brain, but it's okay. So keep being honest with people, keep being honest with yourself, and never ever give up hope.
You were anxious to do that, but that was fantastic, absolutely fantastic. Well done you for doing it. And I love that. I love that message that you've left, that the sun will come out tomorrow, and I love that. It's really good. And what a journey you've been on.
It's been a while.
It's been a while.
It's been a while.
Absolutely, indeed. And how, I know we were talking in one of the breaks just about how if there had been more knowledge of autoimmune encephalitis back then, how different things might have been. And isn't it amazing now that that is in place, and you know,
absolutely.
People that are experiencing it now. I know there's a few people online and in the audience that are in that place right now. So hopefully they'll take some hope from that as well. In terms of sharing your story today, because I know this is a big step for you, what made you want to do it?
I think a few things. I think it's the culmination of a long journey. I've had counselling, I've spoken to lots of friends and family, and for me, being able to get to that place and go, yep, this is me. My old brain was great, but my new brain is just as great. For me, that's a kind of a big step. And I think I didn't have people that got it back then. You know, I was saying to Philippa earlier, my mum and dad in hospital got like a little little leaflet that was folded into three, a little pink leaflet from the Encephalitis Society. That was it. You know, there was nothing else. There was no more information. There wasn't wonderful videos you could watch online and hear other people's stories, and there weren't things you could read. It was just, you know, you didn't really have Google or anything, you know, back then particularly. You know, I was very much on my own, and I just would hate for anyone to feel like they were still in that position. I just want people to know that there are people that go through similar things and they're not alone, and they can find support within their journeys.
Right, love it, and thank you very much for doing that. We appreciate it. Are there any comments or observations from the audience? Yes, we've got Claire at the front. Alina's on the move. Mike is on the way. I can see a very beaming husband over there as well. I think he's very proud.
Hi. I've found all the way along the whole same journey as you, sort of thing, music has made a real difference of how I felt generally if I put some music on, old music that triggers memories of, you know, times, and remembering the words. No idea who's singing it, but just jigging around and remembering the words, some of them. Have you found that music generally, you're bringing up music?
Yeah, absolutely. I think on many levels. So what you probably don't know is I am a music teacher and I am a musician. So music, for me, music is very, very important. I would say in the early days, actually, you couldn't always watch telly. You couldn't read a book because I'd just forget what had happened. I couldn't, you know, as much as my parents on a daily basis try to do 6,000 crosswords with me, because that's what they were told to do by the consultants, to get your brain working, get your brain, just do a crossword. You know, there were so many things that I couldn't do, but you could still listen to music, because you could lie in bed, no matter how ill you felt, you could lie in bed and just have the music. And then for me, going on music, that's where personally, that's where I just can have my outlet for either playing it. Mum and Dad always knew how I felt because I'd play a particular piece on the piano. You know, I can sing it out, I can play it. And even a few years ago, so just before COVID, I was going to put on a big concert to raise money for the Encephalitis Society, or Encephalitis International. And then COVID hit. And I always wanted to raise money because I thought, well, I need to do something to give back and to help others. And I wasn't a runner. and there was no way that I was going to go and do the marathon or whatever, but I could do music, so I was going to put on a concert. Then COVID happened. I couldn't put on that concert. So during COVID, I thought, oh, I could write a song, couldn't I? So actually, during COVID, I then ended up writing a song, and I think it was last year, I then put it out on kind of social media and stuff, and have raised quite a bit of money so far through it. So absolutely, music is important in many different ways. But yeah, it's great.
Yeah, it was amazing. And I think it's an important message to say that, you know, to support us or to help other people, it doesn't have to be the running challenge or there's something other. There's music, there's art, there's all sorts of ways to get involved as well. And we'll have to put a link to that song in the email after this. Marvellous. Brilliant. I think that was a very high note. Yeah, am I done? You're done.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm going to put this mic down because I will drop it and break it.